Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Stack. This is our first pitch day. We are very excited to have two awesome early stage angels with us and three outstanding founders to pitch their businesses and products. And we're so excited to have you here as well. You will absolutely make this help make this an amazing conversation. A little housekeeping first. Just want to give everyone a heads up that next week's going to be a little bit off in terms of schedule. November is just going to be a little bit messy, but we have a ton of programming coming up. They just won't all be exactly at 10 a.m. Eastern every day. So we're just going to be going a little off schedule for a while, but there will be absolutely as much content and insights as ever. So just a forewarning about that, and all those details will be in our Monday morning email. With that being said, let's go ahead and kick it off because we want to make sure as much time goes to these pitches as possible. So let me bring on Jenny Fielding. I think a lot of people probably know who Jenny is. Hi, Jenny. Jenny's from Techstars and the fund, and just one of the most kind of out there investors, at least in New York City and probably beyond that. And Ben Zises, how are you, from Super Angel?
Good morning. Thank you.
And, Ben, a lot of people, if you haven't looked up Ben already, you might not know this. Ben has managed to be, until recently, a very part-time angel nonetheless, but doing it as a kind of side hustle. But he has managed, even at that, to be early in some of the, be one of the first checks in some of the most exciting startups right now. So really, so great to have both of you here. Jenny, how are you?
I am great. I'm not enjoying this winter. I have no heat in my house, so I'm bundled up, but I'm excited to be here to warm up with some great pitch action.
Good. And just remind it, you are head of Techstars NYC.
Correct. Yeah. So I run the Techstars office in New York, and also a pre-seed fund, conveniently called The Fund, where we invest locally into companies in a few geographies. So, yeah.
And any interesting investments to tell us about, maybe during the past 6 months?
Yeah, so we have we invest very broadly across verticals, but we do invest what we call in world positive companies. As you can imagine, we have a lot of companies in health, we have a lot of companies in wellness and future of work. We really want to be investing in companies that are doing good things in the world. Actually, I noticed that Ben and I share an investment into a company called Clean Cult. And so, really just trying to invest in founders that are doing great things in the world. So
I love that term, world positive. And I also want to give a plug for the fund. Jenny co-founded this with a few pretty awesome people, one of whom is Matt Breimer, and he's absolutely one of the brightest and most exciting entrepreneurs, I think, of this generation. He's a personal friend, but he is also just pretty incredible. And he was behind early morning dance parties. Anyway.
Matt has his hand in a lot of things, and he's an amazing co-founder. And our fund is unique in that all of our capital comes from founders. So it's, by founders for founders.
Ben, tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now. Who are you investing in? What do you like?
Sure. First up, I just want to say happy Friday to everyone. Thank you, Amanda. Stacklist, sort of new to the community, but really appreciating so far everything I'm learning about. And so I just appreciate everyone, also all the attendees, for taking their time, spending a little bit of time with us on Friday morning. So very appreciative to everyone who's spending time with us. As you mentioned, up until 2 months ago, I was an angel investor, sort of part-time, nights, weekends, hobbies. It's certainly my passion, having been a founder myself. Experienced much of the founder journey. It's just really hard to get that sort of excitement from later stage companies, whether you're working there or being involved. I love working with founders. Again, their passion, you can't compare. And so, basically decided to go full time, make my side hustle my full time, so just launched actually a rolling fund. through AngelList, which I've been working with for a while, running syndicates, actually letting effectively, small checks to participate in the investments that I've been making. And so it's been great. And sort of the whole industry is becoming more democratized and more accessible. I'm just a huge student and champion of angel investing. I believe it's an incredible way to generate massive wealth creation with, I think the risk today is maybe lower than it used to be, where you're not necessarily getting a 0 exit or a 10, but I think there's a lot of room in the middle. And I think platforms like AngelList are really facilitating people to get started with $1,000 checks. And I just think that maybe wasn't something that could be done years ago before software has sort of enabled the efficiency. And so, yeah, just full-time angel investor and soon to be fund manager. So thanks, Amanda.
I think there's a subtle and I will say optimistic point that you're making there about how much VC is driving what we're doing in startups right now. And I like that you're kind of implying that the industry might be, spreading itself out a little bit more, that people are not necessarily running venture scale risks and venture scale economics and only prioritizing venture scale. I hope you're right. I think it is a positive thing. And I will say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Jenny, Ben, you both are in positions where you don't need your investments to go on a venture path. Is that correct? Or
I don't know if anyone wants to speak to it. I mean, I think from my personally, given the risk associated, so I would say, in fact, I'm certainly looking for companies that can be $1 billion or plus. I think, risk reward, that is what I'm looking for, but I do believe there can be, outcomes that, maybe, 1x, 2x return that aren't the complete zeros as a downside case effectively. But certainly, given the risk, I am looking for $1 billion potential companies.
Ben, we all are. We all are. I'm talking about the venture class, the asset class of needing one big outcome and kind of everything else is that. Sure. That's kind of what I'm talking about is the extreme. And Jenny, where are you on that? What kind of returns are dictating the kinds of investments you're making?
Yeah, we take a portfolio approach at the fund. So our first fund had 50 investments in it. So, we believe that, you can't get those returns that Ben is talking about if you miss a deal. So we're definitely looking for big outcomes. But when you have a small fund, one of the great things is that if founders don't raise a lot of capital, smaller exits can be really meaningful, and you can return the fund to your limited partners with smaller exits. So we're really looking for diversified outcomes, and we're fine with founders that have different objectives for their companies.
Jenny, can you take us, and I want to hear this from Ben too, can you take us a little bit through the finer points? What size checks are we talking about? What is the process usually from start to finish for the companies that, let's say, the fund invests in?
Yeah, so we invest 50 to 100K. And we're really investing at pre-seed. So the first check in, and we've been really the first check in to most of our companies. Although the truth is, when you write a smaller check, 50 to 100, you can kind of slide into the deals that end up being priced and end up being, competitive. What we like to say is, you can take, one check from an angel, or you can take one check from the fund, and you really get access to this community of 300 founders. So that's kind of the value that we like to play. But diversified portfolio, and excited to look at all different types of companies, but really at the early stage.
And Ben, what about you?
Yeah, similar concept, but up until recently, just as a private angel, my investments range from 10 to 25,000. With reserve for maybe the follow-on rounds, but absolutely I try to be as early as possible. I think one of the biggest values that I deliver and try and support my companies is just helping them through the fundraise. So having been a founder, raising $2 million myself from 30 plus angels, seed funds, pitching truly hundreds of VCs, New York, Silicon Valley. I'm comfortable with, soliciting investors. And I think a lot of founders, maybe if they're doing it for the first time, can use a little refining. So I like to sort of sit next to the founder from the earliest days and really sort of help shepherd them, educate them, work with them through the fundraise. But as early as possible, consumer is my focus. Fortunately, as you mentioned, I was able to be the very first investor in the toothbrush company, which I'm sure most people are familiar with, Quip. That was a $10,000 investment in 2014 before the company was named, before we sort of went through an entire naming and formation process, and really learned on their journey and been able to sort of repeat that process with a few other early stage companies, namely Caraway Home, the incredible cookware brand. Early stage consumer, both consumer products, but also e-commerce infrastructure. Because today it's so easy to start a company. You sort of, source a product through Alibaba, post an Instagram page, light up a Shopify site. And so I think those people today, it's easy to dig for gold. And so I like to sort of selling shovels, right, through platforms that support all of the e-commerce brands. That's becoming a big part of my investment thesis. My last two investments have been in platforms that support consumer products, e-commerce companies.
Ben, what do you find is the best way to meet entrepreneurs or to have them meet you? And here, for both of you, I'm trying to get at, insights for the people in the audience who want to meet any early stage investors. What are some good tips on getting access to people like you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, I think, so I personally just try and publicize through Twitter, social, LinkedIn. My email address is everywhere. So I personally can't stand when a VC doesn't make themselves accessible. I mean, my job now full time is to, see as many deals as possible, because I think that's the only way you can sort of improve your deal flow. And so, I put my email everywhere. I respond to every single email, which obviously, and I'm sure Jenny can appreciate.
But what gets your attention? Because,
great question. So especially for me, where I invest, my focus being consumer. So if you're not, if a deck is not absolutely incredibly designed, it's an easy way for me to filter out. So first off, I get a lot of inbound. I speak at events like this to sort of make myself accessible. But as far as filtering or what I look for, the three main things are the founder/team, the product itself, the market, and then sort of the product traction and revenue. So from the team, to me, it's all about the founder, right? So incredible chip on their shoulder, just some insane, drive for success. Where does it come from, right? Trying to get at that and really figure out, is this person going to be able to do the impossible, which is what it takes to build a $1 billion company. It's really impossible. So I really want to ask uncomfortable questions when I meet a founder, which a lot of people aren't, again, understandably, it's a tough thing to sort of drill down into someone's emotions and history to figure out what gives them this incredible drive. And so the founder is the first and foremost thing that I look for in an investment. Yeah,
Jen,
I'll take it.
You are very out there. What you must also get a lot of inbound. And I also know you're very responsive. What is meaningful when it comes into your inbox and let's say not a warm intro, you don't know the person, what gets your attention? Or can we get your attention without knowing, without a warm intro?
I mean, I'm really out there. So if you can't find me, I've invested in 140 companies. So if you can't, find a founder to make an intro or an investor or someone in the community. Yeah. I love getting inbound. I get it, through every channel, as you can imagine. And I think that really stand out are the ones that really kind of appeal to things that are important to me. So that's really my advice to founders. If I write a blog post talking about some of the themes I'm interested in, so I wrote one last year about health, what I called health, wealth, and happiness being the themes I was leaning into. And I got a really, great, thoughtful emails from many people saying, this is why this resonated, this is why what I'm doing kind of fits into the areas that you're interested in. So I think, just in general, whether it's me or Ben or anyone, just making a personal connection to something that individual is interested in, referencing something that they've published, I think really can make you shine in an email. I get tons and tons of just like spammy email because someone sees sees me on AngelList or something like that, and those just go into spam, right? And so I think there's a real opportunity for founders to make a connection.
Yeah.
I also really love when founders aren't pitching me; they just want to, get to know me or send me a link of something that they think I'd be interested in, and that really kind of kicks off the relationship. And I've met and invested in people, that have been totally cold because we've developed like a human rapport, and I just think that's really important.
Thank you. And we're going to share sometime in the hour the links to the talks that Jenny has done and a few other talks that will be relevant to people. A lot of great insights there, including Josh Hicks, who is also involved in the fund and the founder of Plated. He did a talk on exit strategies. It is time to begin our pitches. We're going to bring on Mitch first, and I want to just tell the audience that I will be probably prioritizing Ben and Jenny's feedback for Mitch and also their questions about his business. But if you have questions, please submit them, and I will absolutely try to work them in. So let me find Mr. Mitch, and this is our first time doing this format, so apologies for any little funny hitches or glitches. So Mitch is going to come on, and Mitch is going to share his screen, and it's going to minimize the rest of us. And hi, Mitch. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and start your pitch? Mitch is from Levered Learning, and we're really happy to have you in from the West Coast this morning. And
likewise, happy to be here.
Let's pull up your screen, and I will make sure the rest of us are minimized.
Sounds good. And I'm just going to dive in here.
Fabulous.
Things lined up. So if you're looking for a pain point, you don't have to go far when you're talking to classroom teachers. So the U.S. ranks in the bottom 25% in terms of our students' math proficiency amongst developed nations. That means by fourth grade, only 41% of our kids are actually meeting grade level standards. And that number drops to just 1 in 4 by graduation. For students in historically underserved communities, those numbers are even lower. At best, we can hope these kids will reach 25% by fourth grade, and those percentages also drop as these kids move towards graduation, and many of them don't graduate. Someone's got their mic on. If you could mute that, that would be great. So I was a classroom teacher for 20 years before starting Levered, and I knew firsthand to rise to those kind of challenges, we needed to do more than just build an app or some sort of supplemental skill building program. So we undertook a systems level reimagining of education and instruction in the 21st century. And our initial focus was on elementary math. The average impact of Levered in a Title I school has been 70% higher math growth in the first year of implementation. That means students using Levered at a school for the first time learn 70% more in that year than students at the same grade level and the same school the year before Levered was introduced. Some of our highest gains have come from the students in those subgroups I was talking about earlier. It's worth noting that not only are these kids outperforming their peers in the same subgroup around California by 40 to 50%, they're making more than a year's worth of growth in a single year. And that's what you need to do in order to actually close the achievement gap for these kids and not just be keeping up, but catching up. Of course, a generation of kids is at further risk because of learning loss due to COVID-19. And last spring, we learned that Levered is not only an ideal solution for the classroom, but it was ideally suited for distance learning. And we've seen district level weekly participation rates this year exceeding 95% in distance learning, with kids spending over half an hour per day. The teachers that made the transition last spring from using Levered in their classroom to using it for distance learning described that transition as seamless and flawless, with kids continuing their core instruction work from home in the first week of school closures, with teachers continuing to provide direct support through the Levered platform, obviously very counter to the national narrative and what we've heard around the world. We were chosen this year by ASU GSV as one of the elite 200 startups to compete for the GSV Cup. We're proud to be one of only 11 companies that's been awarded both of Digital Promises product certifications, both for research-backed design and the way that we support varied learners with different backgrounds and needs. I'm honored to work with a mission-driven team. My co-founder Joshua brings the same depth of experience in business and technology as I bring in the education space. And the rest of our team is rounded out with industry veterans, experienced educators, and our resident learning scientist, Dr. Lara Triona. We've seen 20x growth in the platform from 2017 to 2019 when we moved from free pilots to paid student licenses. And 80% of that growth has been organic, from teacher to teacher referrals and principal to principal referrals. The reason we're so popular with educators is that most schools and districts are using 5 to 7 different instructional tools for math, including a traditional paper textbook, as well as online supplemental programs that fill different roles. So regardless of how strong these different programs are, they're separate programs, and the data is insulated between the different tools. So Levered provides a single instructional system that covers all of those bases, and where the data from students' individual assessment actually feeds into core curriculum and intervention. The teacher has access to that data and can make it actionable by actually adjusting their instruction based on the data as it comes in. So our value proposition to a school and district is to replace multiple line items on their budget that have not been impactful with one program that's less expensive in the aggregate, more effective in the first year, easier to implement, and remote ready out of the box. We're a SaaS company. We sell directly to schools and districts. Most schools will pay around $42 per student per year. We also have a direct-to-consumer home product for $9 per month. In terms of the market, the K-6 math market in the US is about a $1.6 billion market for core instructional materials. Our serviceable market are the Common Core states. That's about $1 billion market. Just California alone is 20% of that Common Core market. And by adding just 5 more states, including New York, we can get to 50% of the serviceable market. And then the homeschool direct-to-consumer opens up another $250 million of annual potential revenue. Global opportunity, obviously this is not just a US problem. In Latin America, Spanish-speaking world, more than 50% of kids cannot solve a simple math problem by age 15. I talked about up to 2019. This year, we're actually on track to triple our revenue again as we expand from a single grade level last school year to 3 grade levels this year. And we're building a full K-6 for next year, which is really what our current raise is all about. So to dig into that go-to-market, as I mentioned last year, single grade, we sold about $100,000 worth of licenses. This year, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, we're around 300,000. And next year, not only going to a K-6 program doubles the number of grades that we can offer and the potential licenses to a school, but it represents a full elementary school solution for math that's distance ready and classroom ready. The following year, we expand to K-8 and we add the Spanish language version, which not only gives us more penetration in the US, but opens up the international market. We have about a $24 million pipeline. About 11 million of that are folks that we've had active conversations through our strategic partnerships with professional organizations like the California Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators and the national version. 8 million of those that have asked for additional follow-up, that's a separate bucket, and 5 million representing just horizontal expansion within our existing customer base. We've been self-funded to date, and the current investment opportunity, we have an active crowdfunding campaign on Republic, and we're also raising money through angel investment outside of that. And we have a matching financing agreement in place from Marble Bridge Funding Group for up to $300,000 in debt financing to match what we're able to raise in investment. About half of that money will go towards sales and marketing, 40% towards building out the full K-6 program, and the rest towards our operating budget. So that's the 5-minute version of the pitch. I know I'm running up against my time here. So if you're interested in investing, you can put in as little as $100 on republic.co/levered. And I'm excited to hear questions from Jenny and Ben.
Thanks so much, Mitch. Jenny, Ben, initial questions on what Mitch just presented.
Fantastic. That was a great presentation, and love the mission, Mitch. So thanks so much. Can you talk us through the sales cycle? I imagine selling into schools could have a long sales cycle, could be kind of complicated. So talk us through how that works.
Sure. It's really about building those relationships and doing that over time. The sales, it's a very rigid sales cycle, as you can imagine. We cash almost all of our checks in August, September, as the district, the budgets are finalized. They submit to the county typically, and then the county cuts those checks. But the traditional sales cycle is that you kind of pilot in the spring, you do your outreach and get people interested. They try it out, kick the tires, and then they make that decision towards the end of summer, sign the MOUs, and then you get paid in the fall, and they launch the full program. And that's been certainly borne out for us. It's really, in terms of getting into that sales cycle and building those channels, We've really focused on getting in front of groups of administrators through those professional groups like the National Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. Obviously, we have traction. The impact that our program has had with those students, with Latino students, economically disadvantaged Latino students in particular, English learners, we're a unicorn in that way. That we actually, our 2018 pilot group, English learners had 260% of the California average growth for their subgroup in our pilot group. So it's not at the margins. We're not looking to just kind of move the needle a little bit. It's a kind of transformational approach in terms of our ability to meet the needs of those kids.
Great, thanks.
Mitch, that was spectacular. I mean, you can't sort of fake your experience and the amount of time and thought that you have both spent and invested in this business. So congratulations to you, first and foremost. So Ed, the category is not one that I'm too familiar with. So it's hard, first thing for me, I don't like to be an expert, I can't be an expert in everything. All that said, I mean, I think maybe just some questions. So if you were to just in one sentence, like levered is, just fill in that gap for me, just as succinctly as possible.
Levered is a systems level solution for teaching math to elementary school kids, which there's a huge vacuum in that systems level approach. And that's the critical kind of differentiator for us, is that the ed tech vector has been in supplementals forever with the idea of blended learning. That's kind of the model that we know schools are going to use their textbook from Prentice Hall and Scholastic and McGraw-Hill. Let's not go up against the big guys, the dinosaurs. Let's sell these supplementals that you can do for 20 minutes in class on top of the textbook. And that's just a model for 20 years that has not been delivering results, that teachers aren't happy with, that it's just not been effective, but that's been kind of the ecosystem. And cool. So we replace everything. We're like start from scratch. The favorite slide when I'm pitching to teachers, where we have all those different logos, we wipe them off the screen and put the levered logo up. They're like, I'm in. Like simplify with a program that's actually built with understanding the complexity of what goes into the task of teaching a bunch of 9-year-olds math, and is intuitive enough that actually does facilitate, make it easier to teach in the ways that we already know are best practices because of the integration of the data and the way that data is actionable.
Yeah, and it's obviously very, very on trend. Just curious how, like, when the sort of origin story of your business, given.
Sure. Well, I was teaching full time for 20 years. Part of that time, I was also an administrator while teaching full time, and then for about 12 years, I developed my own math curriculum, which was a pencil paper version of this. That I just got to the point where the range of needs in my class was so wide. I always felt like I was putting up the same fire. Like, what do I do for my low kids? What do I do for my high kids? Like, I have the middle covered with the book. So I developed an individually paced pencil and paper curriculum. But every day I would have a pile of folders on my desk. I was going through stapling, photocopying, giving kids different homework assignments, doing all this by hand. And so about 5 years ago, I was driving to work thinking about what to do with that file cabinet full of activities. And this hit me. It's like, oh yeah, that has to be the way. And that would not only allow me to teach that way easier, but it would allow other people to teach that way. So that's really the origin.
Cool, I appreciate that.
I would love to ask Jenny and Ben kind of where this business proposition stacks up kind of for you. If you don't know right now whether or not you'd be interested, take us through like what the next steps hypothetically would be, for a business like this, and also any thoughts you have on the presentation itself, feedback that you might give him so that his next presentation is even stronger.
Awesome. I'm happy to jump in. Your background is really incredible, and that story that you just told to Ben, I feel like is the hook. And I would maybe start with the personal story, right? Because that idea of kind of founder market fit, I think, is so important to investors. Why are you the person, Mitch, who's been put on this earth to solve this problem? So we got hints of it during the presentation, but I would really lead with that. Another piece of feedback I would give you is, I would say the first few minutes were all spent on kind of the lead up. And I think maybe that spoke to why Ben said, can you concisely tell me what you do in one sentence? There was a lot kind of leading up. and it took a while to get into what you were doing. So I think you need to tighten that up a little bit to really hold the attention of the person you're pitching. So just some little feedback, but I actually thought it was quite good.
Yeah. To add to Jenny's feedback, so and to Amanda's point, you know, I like to be a quick yes or no, and so and I think I wish other people were like that too. I feel for so many founders who can't get an answer. So for me, it's a no, and first and foremost, it's just outside my area of expertise. So I don't even need to go through any other analysis in my head. I think being a disciplined investor is just one of the pieces that maybe makes up a good investor, who knows? But for me, I try and stick to my lanes. All that being said, I think you're going about it really intelligently. I mean, it sounds like you put a lot of personal capital into the business, so I can appreciate how, I mean, again, every founder, it's a hard thing to do, but when you put your own money the way you have into this business, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. It shows your commitment, obviously. So in that way, it's strong, but obviously, you know, startups are hard and risky, and so I can appreciate that piece as well. I think you're going about it smart in the sense of, you know, not leaving any stones unturned, and using a platform like Republic is a good way to sort of, what I was saying in the beginning, sort of open up, expand your potential investor base, because it offers people the chance to support you for a very small amount of money, and you can leverage that, which it sounds like you're sort of planning to, with this additional capital source. So I think you're sort of going about the fundraise well. I assume, I'll give you the benefit of that. For me, I sort of recommend I think fundraising is like a numbers game in many respects for most companies, unless you're the most connected person in Silicon Valley, that you're already best friends with the VCs, and you're an engineer who used to work at Facebook and Instagram, which most of us are not. So to me, I think you got to run your fundraise, and I don't think we have time to get into it, the same way, treat it the same way you would the most important other pieces of your business. So super organized, super targeted. You know, you want to in some ways you want to target people who have been successful investing in your space. And so off the top of my head, I can think of you know, and we can follow up offline, but I know people who are very successful founders and investors in ed tech. Yes,
I need to get to the next presentation, but that's a great point. And actually, Mike shared the link to Jenny's slide share on building your investor funnel, which speaks to it gives very tactical advice on how to do that. Mitch, that was phenomenal. When we saw this presentation, Danny instantly flagged it and said this is a perfect founder business fit, and really impressive. So we'll stay in touch, and I'll make sure you're introduced to Ben and Jenny. Thank you, and I'm gonna listen now.
Thank you both for.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry,
sorry,
Mike. Mitch, I didn't. Sorry. A lot of people. Oh, did I just hang up on everyone else too?
I just wanted to fix my camera.
Okay, I think, sorry, Mitch, I cut you off there, but it's great to have you. And Marissa, hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Well, thanks for being here, and let's get right to it. Just bring up your screen and let's go.
Sure. Hi, Jenny, Ben. How are you? Mitch, by the way, my daughter, I don't even know 6th grade math. Homeschooling has exposed that side of my math drop-off, so fully endorse your product and hope it comes to a school near me soon.
Great.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, great. So welcome to Tech Inside. We're an IoT solutions company that protects people. Founder market fit here. I unfortunately was sexually assaulted in college, and so that caused me to drop out. And luckily enough, I was able to get a job working in finance on the trading floor. And so after working in finance, I realized, there's a reason that people get into mission-driven companies. And so I've spent the past 2 decades of my working career after leaving finance. And so this is kind of the culmination of that. So right now, times are changing. Crime is looking different. People look different. Face masks are everywhere. And there still exists a very huge gap in personal safety. Ring has been designed for the home. OnStar is designed for the car. But, when it comes down to violent crime or emergencies, it's usually the body that's at risk. So we ask everyone, who's protecting your body? And as far as safety concerns for Americans, nowadays, 58% of people worry daily about their personal safety. So we've seen through research that it's transcended gender. And we realize that it's now really a civilian worry. And so we serve a few areas here, obviously protecting against violent crime, property crime. We're in the health and wellness space. And also we'll be touching upon workplace safety later on in our business model. For now in 2020, the top 3 safety concerns are being robbed on the street, assaulted by a stranger, or getting murdered. And we realize that these are very, very realistic concerns. Collective panic is a real thing. In March, right after pandemic hit and quarantine and lockdown were initiated, there were 2 million guns sold. And while we don't subscribe to lethal self-defense, we do see that the amount of guns being sold is really a panic and a fear collective. And that was only the second most, successful month for gun sales, second only to Obama's inauguration month in 2016. So, 2017. So the 20% increase in murders across 59 cities shows us that not only has this been the biggest year jump of not only violent crime, but fatal violent crime, but we see that tensions are high because of civil unrest, defunding the police, and an overall awareness of our health and mortality. And then, and this was very shocking to me, there's a crime prediction model that's pretty popular right now as far as global warming and sustainability are concerned. And it shows that there will be 3 million more violent crimes because of global warming by the end of the century. And that's about 33,000 crimes additional annually.
And Marissa, I just want to give you a time check that we're at 3 minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. So the right team, again, I'm an assault survivor. In 2018, I was assaulted again in Manhattan. After seeing a lot of injustice with NYPD, I decided to work on this company. I got in touch with Miguel Sanchez and Jane Mason, who's a retired FBI agent. And together we're developing the prototype currently for both the Smart Ring and the app. We're reimagining peace of mind and what that looks like. So our wearables backed by an app that provides a safety community with tools and resources. And the end user case for that on an enterprise level looks like a big data report or platform that we'll be able to share with universities, corporate campuses, insurance companies, and more importantly, law enforcement and public safety. So the ring itself has a DNA collection function on top, on the facade of the ring. And the idea here is that you can collect evidence at the assault level. If it's just an emergency or a low-level assault, we have an SOS button. And then we have notifications built into the ring for safety threats nearby. The app itself is a conglomerate of all of those features, including a voice record and a video record that triggers the phone to start filming evidence of the incident. And you can also one-tap an evidence report for law enforcement. How big is the market? We've combined self-defense and health wearables here. We've also combed those audiences for how many are between the ages of which we see dual service, between 16 and 64. And out of that, we're taking 5% of the addressable market and saying we'll be able to reach about 10 million customers with an overall reach of 480 million annually for our app revenue for the wearables as a service, and about 2 billion in product revenue potentiality. Our competitive landscape, really quickly, you can see here, there's nobody in evidence collection. Taser comes very close. and the Palm is just now gaining some market share.
So Marissa, we're at 5.5 minutes. So I just want to, I would wrap up soon so we can, make sure we can get some interaction with the investors.
Okay, sure. Sorry. So our financial projections, we are going to start off with consumer wearables, and you could see that grows into a strong wearables as a service model along with enterprise revenue. And we're hopefully going to reach the IoT for home market within our 5th year. Our unit economics really quickly on the Ring itself is $200 MSRP with $115 margin. And for the enterprise accounts, we have a 73% profit margin once everything's said and done to reach universities. And I could talk through our traction, but we've been bootstrapped thus far, about 70,000 of founder money. We've raised 10,000. We have some soft circles, a term sheet out, and we've been focused on beta signups and prototype production for the past few months.
Marissa, sorry.
Oh, and this is basically just our go-to-market launch. So we're going to be focused on campus awareness, really reducing hate crimes and outdoor enthusiasts, making them safer, allowing for the SOS feature really to come out on both the app and the wearable. We're raising $750,000. We're using about half of that to develop the hardware, a quarter of it to develop the app, and a little less than a quarter for G&A, so just salary and team building. And I'll leave it here just to demonstrate how big the market is. We do envision that we'll kind of go outside of the body, if you will, and into the lifestyle arenas.
Marissa, thank you. I've been following this company for most of this year and was really excited to see your pitch come in because I'm excited about what you're doing. Let's close your screen so that we can see everyone. Great. Ben, Jenny, thoughts, questions?
I'm happy to jump in. Great job, Marissa. So I guess my question is, when you talk about like street violence and crime of this nature, are you going to be able to really access that community with a product with that price point? The people that probably need this product the most are the people that it's going to be hardest to get. So can you really talk about that? I understand why, someone like me would be able to, afford it and have the kind of digital tools to use it, but I'm not really your target market because I don't have that type of situation, world situation, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, Jenny. Thanks for asking that. That's an important question. So we've gone through a lot of pivots, right? And we realized that at first our market was women, and at first it was women of color or women who were in service industry jobs or college students. So we saw that it was gendered or it was like an age specialty. And so, of course, all of those areas have different price points. What we've decided to do is build in a donation model into every item sold, kind of like, Tom's or one of those other consumer models, or Bombas. But what we'd like to do is take a portion of every item sold and put that into a collective where we can make lower cost products, which hopefully will be able to reduce our MSRP as wholesale and manufacturing come down for us. But the idea is that we'll be able to produce a lower cost mirrored product with free access to our app for those disadvantaged populations.
Got it. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Marissa. So appreciate the pitch. Congratulations on your business. So this is going to be sold directly to consumers through, can you recap the distribution sales channels that you think you are going to go through?
Yeah, of course, sure. So we're going to have an ambassador model on college campuses. We're already working with some intern student ambassadors in the safety departments at Rutgers, Penn State. We've been working with CUNY. And so what we do is we work with the interns there. We get into their safety model, their public safety office, And through there, we'll be able to offer reduced price products for their students who are coming on campus or those who are already on campus. As far as sales, at first it will be direct to consumer, but we are looking to evolve into an enterprise model just to subsidize some of the app costs that we'll have. And so we'll be creating like geo-fenced white label solutions for universities, certain corporate campuses. Like there have been some recent OSHA laws around employee safety for those carrying money, like working at the ATM collection companies, or those who are, room cleaners at hotels or the service staff. So there's certain protections now. So we hope that insurance companies will also be able to work with us to design a wearable that's suitable for their staff and also uses the back end of the evidence collection and the app that we've been developing.
Cool. Amanda, just one more thing here. So, and I'm sure Marissa, you know this, like hardware and it's hard enough doing just hardware or software. You're seemingly doing both. One piece of feedback for what it's worth, personally, and again, I had a startup, effectively $2 million went to zero. And one of the biggest things for me I don't know if you're a former founder, but I was guilty of overbuilding my product with too many features. Huge mistake. I had a lot of trouble because had put in all this money, built all these features and everything I could vision. I just wanted to shove it in, right? But it's the cadence of when you release these products. You've got to, everything is their time. When does it make sense? And I think, just something to keep in mind. The other thing is, again, for consumer product, to me, I would pass on this right away. The pitch deck lacks design, enough design to sort of wow me. And I think everything today has to be considered with a design lens, like how would this look on Instagram? And I think showing a gorgeous, whether it's the ring feature or even though it's a prototype, like over investing in design to me is a worthwhile area in the early fundraising days because it kind of lights up people's eyes. So to the extent you can maybe hire a designer, even for, on Fiverr or something, to sort of give your deck, anytime you can remove words from the deck and just images and beautiful design, I think that's a big win. And then recommendation would be just go a little quicker. Just the last thing is, it does feel like besides sort of being a little too much going after at once, I'm thinking, okay, this could be built into maybe the Apple Watch or an existing wearable, and you sort of just do the hardware or the software, because it does feel like, there is an option out there through iPhones or whatever smartphones to sort of have a bunch of these features without having to sort of build them from scratch. So I'll take a break there.
A question from the audience, is this going to be available for men? Is there a version that you're envisioning for men?
Yeah, so what everyone sees right now is a spec for the prototype. We're basically building out the prototype now in a non-precious metal to bring down costs. So it's going to be stainless steel, and it will be like I have to say like an ungendered ring, like a unisex ring. And I think it'll come down to, do you want to wear a ring? Do you want that collection in some other type of accessory or wearable? And that's really what we need the funding for, is really to determine what that wearable is.
Marissa, thank you so much. You and I will be in touch, and Jenny, Ben, thanks so much for your feedback. And as I bring on Priyanka, thanks, Marissa. As I bring on Priyanka, a question: how much do you value market analytics and kind of official, if you will, data from prestigious groups? How much is that necessary when people are going about these pitches?
I mean, I think it depends on the market, right? So if you're building in the healthcare market, I don't think you need to spend a lot of time convincing me that it's a big market, right? And so I think it really just depends. If you're going into a niche market that I might not be familiar with, I think you really want to talk about the market opportunity. I think the first pitch was a good example of that. Ed tech is something where there's a lot of kind of mixed theories on how big the ed tech market is. And so really being able to hammer in on what the market opportunity there makes a lot of sense. And I do like that to be backed up. In massive markets that we know have proved out with multi-billion-dollar exits, less important for me.
Thanks, Jenny. Priyanka, welcome.
Hi.
On your screen.
Yes. All right, great. Can you see my pitch deck now?
Yes.
Thanks, Ben.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Priyanka Ganju. I'm the founder of Kofi Beauty. We are the first beauty brand celebrating South Asian beauty. So that's me in a different dress. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. In 2014, I was at Estee Lauder companies, had a great job, but I saw the future of beauty as being indie beauty, as being influencer-driven marketing, and I went and joined Ipsy, which was really at the forefront of this revolution. At Ipsy, I helped scale that business from a $100 million business to a $500 million business, and helped it become the world's largest beauty subscription service. I ran merchandising and personalization, so every day I was exposed to hundreds of indie brands using both our consumer data as well as art to make merchandising decisions. But despite having all this access, I was still mixing my own concealer shades. My friends and family, when they would ask me for recommendations for beauty products, I didn't have a brand that I could say, hey, this is designed for you, this is made for you, this represents you. And that's what led me to start Kofi. I saw that there's a huge audience being left behind and that the future of beauty is radically inclusive. That was last year. And Ben mentioned having a chip on your shoulder. That's my chip on the shoulder, is the fact that I was helping these beauty brands grow, but they weren't even talking to me. They weren't even making products for me. And we've seen that play out this year more than ever before, where mainstream beauty brands are being called out for not addressing the needs of Black and brown populations. We are being thought leaders even before launch. We are speaking out about how to drive inclusivity in beauty in the public eye, and it's not just a US-centric challenge. It's actually a global challenge. I grew up in India, and I lived in Singapore for 7 years before I moved to the US. And throughout my experiences, these same themes where we always have to match up to Eurocentric beauty ideals remain, where we don't find products for us remain. And I know that my friends and family and people who live across the world who are part of this community are feel the same problems. And so it is a massive, massive market. It's so understudied that I couldn't really find a single study to say, hey, this is the market size. So this was my best attempt at a back of the envelope calculation, but it's definitely a multi-billion-dollar market, both in the US, where multicultural beauty is growing faster than many other spaces in beauty, but also globally, where South Asia and Southeast Asia are the fastest growing beauty markets in the world. And why do we need another beauty brand, right? That's because there are three main areas that I understood from the market research I spent last year doing. One, at a very basic level, we just don't feel beautiful. We've always been shoved Eurocentric beauty ideals, and we also come from a patriarchal culture where these ideals are not challenged, and beauty is defined by the male gaze, and we don't have a brand that truly is challenging these. We have, at a product level, a unique mix of pink and yellow undertones, which is not really addressed, because even products that are for Black people, they tend to have more blue or blue-red undertones. Same with products that are made for Caucasian population, they tend to have more pink undertones. So we do have a real product gap as well in terms of people who understand our undertones and are designing products for it. Same for skin concerns that are more, you can say, endemic to our population. Dark circles, uneven skin tone, hyperpigmentation. Nobody has studied these issues as deeply as we have at this point. So here's the competitive landscape, right? Like I said, there are brands that are made for everyone, but the challenge with being for everyone is that you're really only addressing the 80% of the population and not the 20% that gets left behind. We have seen an increase in inclusivity. There are brands that are starting to build product for people of color, but nobody is centering South Asians. There are a lot of brands that appropriate our culture, but don't necessarily actually create products for us and center us and celebrate our culture in a way that's authentic. Because if you think about who's at the table building these products, who's testing these products, it's very unlikely to be someone South Asian at the table. And I think that's kind of what we want to change, and really in our product development process, in our content, our team is Gen Z and Millennial South Asian members who are authentically creating a solution for us. So this became very apparent to me because in March, we launched our Instagram and our blog, and we started doing community events. And I started receiving messages every day where people would tell me that this is going to change their life. And, two messages that really stood out to me were from two moms who said, I just gave birth to a daughter, or like I have a daughter and I don't want her to grow up feeling awkward around makeup. I want her to grow up in a world where she thinks she's beautiful. And, we've challenged these South Asian standards that we had to grow up with. That really got me through COVID, to be honest, because it's a difficult time to be an entrepreneur, but knowing that I had like something that could create this level of impact is really what drives me. So we're launching in terms of product.
We're at 5 and we're at about 6 minutes. I'm sorry I didn't give you a warning before.
No worries, I'm about to wrap up. So we're launching in Feb 2021, that says 2020, with our first product, which is a kajal eyeliner, through our website, which will be direct to consumer. And I'm currently raising $1 million on a safe, of which I have $300,000 circled so far. Our first check just got into the bank last Friday. And one of our early investors is Carissa Bodner, who is the founder and CEO of Thrive Cosmetics, which is one of the fastest growing D2C beauty brands in the US. And she's a huge advocate and supporter as well. So that's my pitch, and I'd love to open up for questions.
Thanks, Priyanka. Why don't you close out your screen so we can see you?
Yes, let me
Let's jump right in. Jenny, Ben, any questions or thoughts?
I'll let Ben kick this one off because he's the consumer guy.
Priyanka, I'm going to bring you back in. I think you booted yourself out along with your slides there. And I'll say one of the reasons we selected this, it resonated because I have family and friends who are South Asian and have spoken to this need specifically. And so I was very excited to hear. I'm sorry, Jenny, Ben.
Thank you, Priyanka. Congrats as well. So I would say, really nice pitch. Just from a founder standpoint, you certainly are very much, you've experienced the problem and you've developed a solution, and so I think that kind of checks out, makes sense. You're obviously, to your point, just passionate and you care for reasons beyond just the financial potential for the business. So I think those are all great checks. From a market, personally, obviously beauty is just insane, and I think there's such a long tail of, it used to be maybe there were only a few stores and everyone would go to those stores to buy their beauty products. But today, I can't even tell you, I think, and maybe Jenny, I'd be curious to know what she thinks. I think personal care beauty products could be like the most competitive space right now. I'm seeing more companies like this every minute. There's so many. So I've sort of personally decided to hold off on investing in these types of products. I actually am an investor to a company that I feel is a platform, not to sort of steal the show, to all these beauty products. It's called Cadence with a C, keepyourcadence.com. It's a personal care travel pod, reusable, to hold all of your beauty products. So you put your makeups and creams and ointments into this and sort of, without having to use all the plastic for refillables. But I would say, to me, one of the biggest things I look for in this category would be celebrity distribution. I just believe you could have the best product in the world. We all know that, but obviously if people don't know about it, the right people don't know about it, it's just not gonna be a successful venture. So I think to the extent you could spend some time, and maybe you have, figuring out who is the biggest influencer in your demographic, the category you're looking to, sell to, and figure out a way to get them on board, whether it's giving them a small equity advisor stake so that you have built-in distribution. Because even if I say, okay, Priyanka's gonna make it happen, the product works, but how are we gonna get people to buy it or know about it? So to me, I think de-risking this business, or at least the way it would stand out from so many other beauty companies and products, is if you said, I've got this influencer who has 10 million followers of my audience, she's an investor, advisor, whatnot. I think that could help. That could be a little bit of a cherry on top. And then the other thing, just because I'll hand it to Jenny, who can finish it. one thing I recommend considering for all these companies today that I think really would be a good option is finding an accelerator, because I think all of you are at a similar point where you would really potentially benefit from one. Obviously not all are equal, but I think that's anyway. I'll take.
Know any accelerators, Jenny?
Applications for Techstars New York are open, so love to have you all apply. I'll just give you, following up on Ben, some feedback. I like to see in a pitch really that you can get in 1 minute a problem, a solution, and a bit of credibility. I feel like your pitch probably took, like many people here, a few minutes to really get into it. I think you could have very quickly, you're very credible as the founder of this company, great founder market fit. You've got to get into what the pain point is generally, what your solution is, and why you're the one to build it. And you have to be able to do that in 1 minute. So I think if you tightened up the pitch, this would be great. The other thing is with consumer product, you've got to go really deep on metrics, what your customer acquisition costs are going to be, and really that you've thought that through, because that's the first thing an investor is thinking about. Like, this is a nice product, get the market, how is she going to acquire customers? You can't wait to the end because they're spending the whole time trying to think about that.
Thank you, Priyanka. Since we have a minute or two left in your section, any questions for the investors then?
No, I think that's fair feedback. I think I've definitely thought through the go-to-market strategy. That's what keeps me up at night for sure. And influencer collaborations is definitely top of mind for me. But I think what we see ourselves as being a platform, like Morphe is the closer that comes to mind, where South Asia, and I think that's the challenge with people thinking that diversity is a checkbox or a monolith. We're not a monolith, and I think recognizing that and being able to work with different influencers who address different populations with different like beauty needs is where I see the future of this brand. It's not going to be a single celebrity, because our market research shows that people can see through an inauthentic celebrity collaboration very quickly. So being able to create genuine influencer relationships, which we're doing through our community building and content building, which we started already this year, is the way forward for us. And so that's how we hope to growth hack and cut through the noise and the customer acquisition cost in the space. So I think that feedback is on point in terms of bringing that discussion forward in the pitch itself.
I just followed you on Instagram, and good luck with the launch.
Amazing. I love that. Please sign up for our newsletter too. Everyone in the audience, please sign up for our newsletter.
Does Kulfi have an underlying meaning? Have you checked the brand name translates across Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so kulfi is actually a South Asian dessert. It's most like ice cream, and we use it we eat it a lot with celebrations. So it's associated with celebration, fun, and play. And the ethos of the brand is to change beauty from being a frustrating experience for us to being something that's actually celebrating us and playful and fun, like beauty should be.
Thanks, Priyanka. And as we wrap up, we have a question from the audience thanks, Priyanka. We'll see you soon. As we wrap up, a question from the audience. Do you all have an opinion on crowdsourcing? Does that influence if a founder is going after a crowdfunding, whether it's investment or rewards-based crowdfunding? Do you have an opinion on that? Does it affect your decision-making at all?
I'm excited about crowdfunding. I love platforms like Republic. They're one of the best out there. They're very mission driven, and they support a lot of diverse founders and women. I think it's a great way to test your market. And I've had many companies that have had term sheets from, lots of VCs, including in my portfolio, and they've gone on platforms like Republic to really be able to have their community get upside in their companies, and to really, be out there celebrating what they're doing. So I think it's a great way to reward your community, especially if you're doing something around consumer.
Thank you. And I just don't want to pass up the opportunity for you to just give maybe a little bit of advice to people who are considering accelerators. Who should do it? Why is it a good thing? I'm a fan of accelerators, and I would love to hear it from you.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you want to make sure that the people that running the accelerator are people that you resonate with, and that they really have whatever you're trying to get out of the program. So at Techstars New York, we really focus on growth and scale, and we've got a great lineup of mentors and people in the community who can help with that. So just make sure that whatever you're looking for in an accelerator, that those individual people who are running the program, who are working with you day to day, have that experience. And I think it's a great place to surround yourself with resources. So there's a lot of cash out there. An accelerator is really a different experience. It's a few month boot camp where you're immersed with mentors, with advisors, with investors, and really with community, right? And especially in these crazy times where everyone is stuck at home, we find that being able to connect with like-minded founders is a really great thing. So happy to talk to anyone about Techstars New York. I threw a blog post I just wrote about it, but feel free to connect with me anytime.
Thanks, Jenny. And Ben, what are you excited about in the next month or two? What are you just itching to invest in, and what are you seeing coming your way?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so I think I mentioned earlier, just this week announced my AngelList rolling fund. So for a relatively very small amount of money versus investing, it used to be you had to put in 6 figures to be an investor in a VC fund, but now you can invest with people who have access to great deals, who do it full time like myself. So superangel.fund is a link that goes right to my AngelList rolling fund. You can see my pitch deck. So I think one thing a lot of founders love is understanding what are the investors sort of, right? So when I was a founder, it'd be really cool to see what a VC pitch deck looks like. I make that public to everyone, and that's another benefit of AngelList. It's actually you're allowed to publicly share your fundraise, your pitch material. So I'm going to be promoting it, more and more over the coming days, weeks, months, years. It's a forever open, effectively angel fund where people can invest. Right now, it's as little as $10,000 a quarter, which is $3,300 a month. To sort of invest in the deals that I'm doing. And I think, as Jenny would attest to as well, I think this business, as you go, the deal flow gets better and better, and your eye gets better. And so, fortunately, I'm in a position where I'm starting to see, founders are approaching me, and I'm able to sort of see great opportunities and to invite anyone in the world, literally, to participate in the opportunities that I'm seeing and putting my own money into. I think it's a really cool thing. So I'm excited to share my rolling fund and bring on a bunch of partners to be a part of that journey. Okay.
Well, everyone, keep Techstars, the fund, and Super Angel on your radar. Jenny, Ben, fabulous to have you. And everyone, thanks for your questions and your engagement. It was really a great session, and thanks for hanging on for a few extra minutes. And especially to our presenters, Mitch, Marissa, and Priyanka. Thanks so much for going on this inaugural pitch journey with us, and we'll look forward to many more. Have a fabulous weekend, everyone. Look out for our email on Monday talking about our kind of crazy election cycle COVID schedule for next week, and but we'll make sure you still are getting your good content and insights. All right, take care, everyone.